Hey everyone, welcome back to Going Deeper Encouragement with me, Steve Haynes. And this morning I want to speak on something that's really been a journey for myself personally and how to deal with the scripture and process it and really apply it to my life. And the scripture I want to speak to you about is found in John 2, verse 24. And this is what it says. It says, "But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all men." Now, this is the beginning of Jesus' ministry. He's just getting going. He's calling his disciples, and look what he says. "But Jesus would not entrust himself to them, for he knew all men." He did not need man's testimony about man, for he knew what was in a man. And one of the things that I've really wrestled with is that on the one hand, Jesus grew in favor and in stature with both God and man, the Bible talks about. But one of the things is that Jesus did not have the fear of man or the desire to be approved by man. He was one who lived purely for the praise of God, the Father. And so he didn't entrust himself straight away to people. Why? Because he knew what was in the heart of men. He knew they couldn't be trusted, and so he had to wait and see who were the people that he could entrust himself to. I know in so many occasions that, maybe it's the desire in my heart to, win the approval of man, to feel accepted in environments, but I know that when I come into a new environment, let's say I come in and I'm new on staff at a church, that I want to be vulnerable with people. I want to share who I am. I want to share my vision. I want to share all those things that God has spoken. But one of the things that I've realized over the years is that not everyone will value it. Not everyone will treat that thing with honor. And we need to actually, like Jesus, hold back a little. Hold back a little. He didn't entrust himself to men because he knew in the hearts of men. And this is quite a difficult one because on the one hand, God calls us to live a life of vulnerability. He calls us to be vulnerable, to walk in a vulnerability with other people. Men with men, women with women. So he calls me, Steve, to walk with other men who can ask me questions at the right time. Who can ask you those questions you don't want to answer. And he's called me to be vulnerable with men. But he's also saying, Steve, don't make yourself vulnerable to people who you can't trust. And so there has to be this growing of things on either side. There has to be, if you want to come into my life, if you want to be a friend of mine, I need to get to know you. I can't just suddenly treat you like you're my best buddy and I've known you for 20, 30 years. There's a journey of trust that I go on with you. And so you start as an acquaintance and I get to know you and I'll reveal a bit of my heart and then you'll reveal a bit of your heart. And as I see that I can trust you with what I've given you, so that builds stronger and stronger. That's why that there are friendships that I've known for 30 odd years, that these men that I know in my life, I can trust them. I know that when I share things with them, I know that they have my best intentions. Even if it means speaking the truth that I don't want to hear. But I know that they love me, they've walked with me, and their desire is for me to flourish. And so I think when we look at this, we see in verse 25 that so often the root of why it is that we entrust ourselves too quickly is because in verse 25 it says he did not need man's testimony. And so often we have this need inside of us where we want man's approval. We want to hear what man is saying for us. And God's saying, no, are you not satisfied in me? Are you not satisfied in my approval? And so I've shared this before. I've really struggled with, the fear of man and getting man's approval. And there are times where God is telling me you need to confront something and speak straight into a person's life. And I want to shun away. Why? Because I desire man's approval. I want them to say, yes, Steve, you're great, all of that. But that's not what God is saying. God is saying, Steve, would you be straight to me? Would you get my approval? Would you be willing to address things? And would you only entrust yourself truly to those who you know you can trust? And that might be a journey that you've got to go with people. And so I challenge you with this as we finish with our encouragement for the day. Who are the people that God has placed around you who you can entrust yourself to. Who are those people? And then make yourself vulnerable before them. We all need people who we can be straight with and vulnerable with. Who are those people in your life? And then the other question to ask is, are there people in your life that maybe you've been a little bit too vulnerable to too quickly? In other words, you've let them in the deep things in your life and they're not ready for it. That their level of character is not there, their level of trust is not there, yet you've got to build that relationship. And so sometimes we've got to take an inventory of our relationships and see, where's this person at in that journey? Not everyone's the same. I will share things with my wife that I will not share with the average person that I've met a week ago. And so we've got to know that every relationship is different, and depending on the level of trust that we can have with that person will then determine the level that I am vulnerable with that person. So I hope that's helped you, and that you can look at your spouse, you can look at people you're working with, and that you can walk in a greater level of vulnerability and trust with them, and you can take the journey to a deeper place of relationship. God bless you. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll chat to you soon. God bless.